Greetings, metalheads, and welcome to the YouTube channel for Friday 13th. I hope you're well. I'm good. Thanks for watching. So, today you're going to be watching a interview I did with Carsten Lizard Schulz. He was the former singer with the band Domain, also a great band called Evidence One. Now, recently, Kirsten's also involved with a band called Devoid, who have just released an album on Frontier Records. The album is titled Lonely Eye Movement. It's a great album. Please check it out. It's awesome. Now, Kirsten's done loads and loads of albums, if you don't know. He's been guest appearances, doing vocals for certain bands all around the world. Eden's Curse is one of them. Lazarus Dreams is a new one of his projects, which is excellent. So, he's been around for many, many years. I've had to do this interview in two parts because the full interview was an hour and a half long, which was conducted on the 2nd of December 2021, which was last week. So, like I say, it's in two parts. So enjoy, give a thumbs up, spread the word, subscribe to the channel, it's free. Come on, get involved everyone. Thanks for watching, be safe, stay metal and support the Friday 13th YouTube channel. Cheers folks, stay metal. Right, okay then Kirsten, first of all I'd like to thank you for doing this interview. I hope you're well.
Oh, I am. Of course I am.
So thank you for doing this. Like I say, it's been a pleasure to finally talk to you after all this time. We've known each other for quite some time.
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. It's been about time, I say.
Yeah, I think it is as well. So I'm going to ask you some warm-up questions first. First of all, I'm going to ask you a little bit about your history as growing up. I mean, how did you get into become a singer? What was the first
Oh,
bands that inspired you?
uh, that goes way back. That goes way back. Actually, my granddad had a two-track tape recorder, a tape machine with some Elvis Presley tunes.
Okay.
And believe it or not, like I was like at the age of 2 or 3, I could barely talk. Um, when I first tried to sing some Elvis Presley
Okay.
stuff. Um, and then it went on. I got some Beatles from my dad, and um, I guess the I mean I'm a kid of the 80s. You know, I born in 72, so I was 14 in 86 when all the big bands broke. You know, when metal just went berserk. You know, when it exploded back in the days. You know,
Yeah.
so I grew up like with, as most of the guys, posed with I don't know, with the Scorpions, with Bon Jovi, I don't know, some Europe, Def Leppard, you name 'em. And the initial moment, I mean, I was always like sort of the singer guy, but I never intended to really go fully into it. You know, all my friends started getting guitar lessons and drum lessons and whatever, and the freaky ones even got some keyboard lessons.
Right.
Um, but I, to one birthday, I can't remember which one it was. A friend of mine just got me a Led Zeppelin bootleg. It was a double CD. I still have it. It was just right about the time when the first CDs came out, and it was a bootleg CD of the Physical Graffiti tour, and that was it for me. That was probably the one moment when I finally decided I want to be a singer. You know, that's yeah. I guess that was the uh, the initial spark, so to speak.
So Robert Plant's your idol, basically.
Um, he was in the very beginning. He still is to this day. There's a couple others that I'd say that really influenced me. Some some were pretty obvious, some are not. If you ask, you know, my absolute heroes, the first singer that, you know, I always tend to think that there's a couple of people that influenced me on this way, this journey of becoming a singer, sort of.
Right.
And there was one guy in particular which made me, for example, get classical vocal lessons for I don't know how long, and that was Ray Gillen.
Okay, yeah.
back in the days when the first I was already singing in bands back then, but when the first Badlands album came out, um, and I got this album and I was listening to it. I listened to that guy and I just read some interviews in the magazines and stuff. And the moment he said that he had real classical vocal lessons for quite a while, um, that was the point when I said, okay, I need to get them too, just to get my voice sort of properly in shape. And I had a classical vocal teacher for I don't know how long. That was Ray was a huge influence, and then obvious ones like Coverdale, who to this day, even if he's not sounding the way he is supposed to, I guess, he was, yeah. This is another funny thing. I had like when the 1987 record came out, and that basically was it's like to this day the ultimate album to me.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
It is, if I have to choose like one album which I would be listening to for the rest of my life, it would probably be that one. And I remember, I remember vividly that my mom had back in the days, I still had some hair, and it was a bit longer then. And my mom forced me to go to a hairdresser, and I went there with the picture of Coverdale. In all his 87 glory. And the hairdresser guy looked at me, looked at the picture, started laughing, and cut my hair. And that basically was the last time I ever went to a hairdresser. Yeah, Coverdale, guys like Sammy Hagar. And, I'm more into like the classic rock vocalists. Like Glenn Hughes, you name them, Joel Turner, those type of guys.
What about metal singers like Rob Halford, Jeff Tate, Bruce Dickinson, them type of singers? Any of those?
Um, um, Not in particular. There's a few there would from which I tend to borrow bits and pieces here and there. Um, like Tate, for example. Jeff Tate was probably if you listen to like German guys, Michael Kiske, those guys who would really had a range but could sing. Not like falsetto, but those guys really had like the guts. They had really like a powerful voice. I won't say that those guys just influenced me that I'm not particularly aware of. Probably as hints and bits and pieces every now and then, but there's not those guys that I would see as my, particular main influences, so to speak.
Yeah, right.
I
mean, I saw Dead Daisies a couple of weeks ago in England, and Glenn Hughes is the best rock singer ever, without a doubt.
I had the fortune to tour with the guy for 5 weeks a couple of years ago. We've been touring back in the days when I was in Domain. We were supporting them, supporting HTP, the Hughes Turner project, on a 5-week European. Yeah,
it's funny you should mention that, because I saw the Hughes Turner project in England many years ago. You wasn't supporting back then, was you?
And the first tour we were, but the second one, no.
So I think it was the first tour they played Bradford. Do you remember in England? Did you do that show?
No, we only did like two England shows. We did one in Dudley and one in London.
No, right, they weren't the same tour. I saw them on.
Yeah, and it was. I mean, touring with those two icons was amazing. And there was one moment when we were playing in, I guess it was Finland or somewhere, and the backstage and the showers and the dressing rooms were underneath the stage, which was sort of weird. So I took a shower, and Glenn Hughes, right above me, was belching out "Mistreated." This is some of those moments you will never ever forget in your life.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
Wow, that's awesome. So what age was you when you got into rock music then? Can you remember your first record?
My first record or my first rock record? There's a difference there.
Rock record.
Um, like 14, 15. As I said, like I'm born 72, so I was like 14 when all those albums came out. You know, when hard rock broke the charts back in the days, especially with Bon Jovi, with Europe and Def Leppard and stuff. You know, and yeah, I was like 14, 15, and it was a friend of mine. I remember a friend of mine had all sorts of mixtapes. You know, it was regular radio sessions that we used to listen to, and it had all sorts of mixtapes. And there was a couple songs on them which I later tried to find out about bands and tried out to get the full album. There was like Full Length by Def Leppard on it, and there was, I don't know, it was an autograph track. There was It's Not Love by Darken. You know, to this day, I'm a huge Darken fan.
Yeah, I like
when
the
it comes to
first 4 albums for me.
yeah, it went absolutely downwards from there.
Yeah,
but,
definitely.
You know, that is for example, you know, Don Dokken is one of my biggest influences when it gets to songwriting and structuring vocals and structuring and arranging songs. You know, when classic verse, bridge, chorus parts. And if you listen closely, it's just basically it's all Dokken. Not vocally, but the way he arranged his vocal parts. Yeah, I guess, yeah, 14, 15, first album. Yeah, as I said, my first record. My first single, 7-inch vinyl that I ever bought was "Love Is a Battlefield" by Pat Benatar.
Okay.
The first album that I ever bought was "Man on the Line" by Christa Berg. Also being the very first concert I ever been to. Christa Berg in '84 with my mom. And to this day, I love Christa Berg's records up to the Man on the Line album. Everything afterwards is ugh. But especially the older stuff, you know, like Far Beyond This Castle Walls and the Crusader, the Eastern Wind, there's awesome records. First rock records, oh geez, I have tons of. Back in the days, there was a CD online seller. It wasn't online, but back in the days, they had like small catalogs.
Right.
And I used to go to my friends, and they all choose albums and CDs, no, and singles, and I was just ordering for all of them. And the more you order, the more records you could get for free. Right. So within a very short amount of time, I had like literally hundreds of vinyls at home. And the cool thing was that I could really just tap into something I only heard the name of because I could get them for free. So I had like tons and tons of all sorts of records, from probably one of the first ones from one of the first metal bands I was into was Quiet Riot, with the classic Mental Health album.
Yeah.
Also being the very first song I ever played with my own band, Mental Health.
Right. I was more into the Quiet Riot 3 album with Paul Shortino singing.
Oh, and there was a fourth one.
Fourth one, sorry, yeah. I thought that was a good album, yeah.
It was a great one. Stay With Me Tonight is awesome. It's a brilliant song. Brilliant, and a great singer, yeah. I was, Quiet Riot was, I didn't like the whole record. I probably was only listening to 2 songs, which was Mental Health and Come On Feel the Noise, obviously.
Yeah. That was a Slade song. I believe that was a Slade song.
Yeah, sure. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Speaking of Slade, and all, like I said, as I said before, I could tap into stuff I only knew the names of. And once I found out that Come On Feel the Noise was a cover of a Slade tune, I was also going into some Slade material. So I was checking the catalog, which ones I could get for free. So, and I still have that one. This is a 7-inch double vinyl. Slade Live, Rock and Roll Preacher. Absolutely fantastic. Brilliant recording, brilliant song. Yeah. And the first CDs that I bought, I was very early on that I had my own CD player. I didn't have a stereo to it, so I was listening to the CDs on my headphones. And the first three ones I bought together with the CD player were Led Zeppelin 3, White Line Pride, and Pyromania by Def Leppard.
Yeah, I think my first record I ever bought was The Police, Regatta de Blanc.
Not the worst one, of course.
And I think the first concert I ever went to, I was 10 years old, was Blackfoot.
Oh, that's a cool one. Do you
They're all,
remember who was supporting there?
it was Samson.
Ah, what a package! Great.
Yeah, but it
Cool.
wasn't Bruce Dickinson singing. It was the Mick, the big guy, Big Mick.
Yeah.
Because Bruce had just joined Iron Maiden. So, but that was my first concert. I think my first rock album was Tags of Pantang, Crazy Nights, or one of the very first few.
I never actually, that's a typical, more like a British thing. I never was into the Tigers of Pantang. I discovered Praying Mantis, for example, very late in their career. I listened to a few Samson albums later, just through pure interest after finding out that was Dickinson was singing before there. And I saw. Did I see the Tigers of Pantang live once? I probably saw them at Wacken Festival sometime in the 2000s.
Yeah, I saw them 1999 or 2000 at Wacken with Jess Cox singing. You'd have probably been at the same one as me.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
So what was your first band then, Kirsten, that you got, the actual band that you started playing in? What was they called?
My first teenage band I was in was called Red House. Back in school, by the named after the Jimi Hendrix tune, and we played mainly cover tunes. We played obviously some Hendrix. We played some CC Top stuff. The first more like professional band I was in was years later. It was a band called Mr. Hate, with which I had my first record deal.
Okay, can you explain what the music was like, Mr. Hit?
We were late. The album originally was recorded in '94, and we were just and we released it by ourselves, and it was later, like 3 years later, released by a German label called USG Records.
All right. Yeah, I remember that label.
It had a really, really cool roster. From Brazen Abbott to Steve Stevens, from Richie Colson to, I don't know, just amazing stuff.
They used to send me CDs many years ago. I think they were based in Stuttgart somewhere area.
Somewhere that, Nuremberg,
that's it, right, yeah.
Yeah, and they released their first album, and the band was called Mr. Hate, after the Tubes song, actually. I was never a big Tubes fan, but a bass player was. So
I'm gonna have to check out this album. I've never heard it.
Sent me your address, mate. I still have tons down there, and nobody wants them for a reason. It's not bad.
You haven't got the First Evidence 1 album, have you? Because that's the only one I haven't got.
Oh, sure. I guess I have a couple copies left.
Oh,
just yesterday I was sending out some CDs, and my last copy of the Sky's the Limit album. But from the first one, I guess I still have at least a few of the AFM re-release.
I never got that one. So your first band was Mr. Hate. Yeah, I will do. Mr. Hate was your first band. What style of? Who did you compare yourselves to?
It was more, it was basically influenced by classic, let's say melodic hard rock stuff. A bass player was very much into Motley Crue. Back in the days, I was a huge, basically into bands like Thunder and stuff. We were pretty funky in a way. There was obvious influences. There was, in particular, just one album that we were uh, really influenced by, and that was the Black Radio Won't Play This Record by Mother's Finest.
Okay.
We never achieved that sort of amazing production value, but that is probably what you can compare the most to, sort of.
Oh, right. Okay.
It's pretty rough, pretty rough. We were pretty young back then, but it's not that bad, actually. It's
Right,
not that bad. And that was my first step more towards making professional music.
okay, so what came after that then? Which band came after that one?
Domain.
Domain.
Domain. I did some few studio jobs here and there. My very first album that I ever recorded was a hired gun job for a drummer over here in Germany. But the next band then was Domain, which I joined in '99 or something.
They've done quite a few albums, haven't they? They've done quite a few albums.
Oh yeah. I left the band in 2006 or something, and till then we did. Wait a second. I need to check myself. 1, 2, 3, 4, like half a dozen albums.
Did you release some albums on LMP Music?
Yep, of
Yeah,
course.
because Limp used to, Limp. I think I reviewed some of your albums because Limp sent me some of your albums many years ago. I didn't realise you was the singer.
Yeah.
Go listen to them again because your voice probably sounds different to what it does now. So I'll check it out.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I'll go and check them out again.
It is a Domain was for me, but we've finally with the final two records, Last Days of Utopia and Stardom, in my opinion, we finally got to the point where we always had to go to musically, style wise, more into the it's like more power metal era, a bit more epic, and huge keyboards and stuff, and high-speed guitar playing, and me screaming my balls off.
I think if I remember rightly, you sounded kind of similar to Axis, that sort of stuff.
The first albums did and probably the first one that when I joined the band. Yes, of course, the first couple records obviously did. Funny side note, Axis got their deal afterwards because Domain for the first album was quite huge over here in Germany, released in '89 or something.
Didn't they have a major record deal at first?
Yeah,
I thought they did. Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, they were big. They were big in Germany for a short period of time. They did some TV soundtracks and stuff. But the first album that I joined in, as I said, was released in 2001. Right. Not quite sure. Was very much in the vein of the first records. Very, I can say, cheesy type of German hard rock. And we slowly progressed into something more metal, and funny enough, our guitar player, the main man of the band, Axel Ritt, is now for I don't know how long guitar player for Gravedigger. Yeah. So he turned completely full on metal.
Axel Ritt, I believe, is it Axel Ritt?
That's his name. Yeah, right. And it was and the final two records came out on LMP. Yes. And we managed to tour a lot.
That's good.
We managed to tour a lot with the band, almost with every album. Like I said, with the first album we toured with Bonfire. The second one we toured with, as I said, Hughes Turner, which was amazing. Really, a one in a lifetime experience. And then did a couple of tours. Then we went to Asia with one record. We played a tour in South Korea, which was kind of weird.
Wow.
It was great. It was great. And the final record also was released as a package, sort of limited edition with a full on with a concert film which was broadcasted in South Korean TV back then.
So
It
it's a
was
live
cool.
live DVD basically. Oh wow,
It
that'd
was
be
fun.
interesting to watch. So what
A
came after?
couple years back, I found that the very concert as a bootleg DVD, which was also funny.
So what came after Domain then, Kirsten? What came after that?
Um, while I was in Domain, I did a whole lot of studio jobs for all sorts of bands. You
Yeah,
know,
I've
and,
noticed you've done quite a lot of recent. You've been getting
yeah,
around a little bit.
yeah. I mean, the point in case being, as I said, I did my main influence with guys like Turner and Hughes, for example, and in the late '80s, those guys were singing on like 20 records a year. You
Yeah.
know, and I was a huge Jeff Scott Soto fan, as a matter of fact. And what I did was, I bought almost everything I could get my hands on when I knew those guys were singing on the record, because I knew the albums would be good. I would at least love the vocals because I love those guys that much.
Yeah.
And so it turned on me that probably one day there must be something really cool to do. You know, if you have like people that would probably follow you through different styles of music just because they like the way you sing.
You've pretty much become a session singer, haven't you?
Yeah, that's what I did that's what I do now for last almost 25 years. You know, I'm a session guy, and I'm a session whore. You know, and the hired gun people go to, which is fine. I mean, I do this, and then, but back to your question, while I was in Domain, I joined Evidence One. You know, I was on tour and on tour I got the call from Robbie Burber back then, who wanted to do something a bit more rocky, a bit more heavier than he used to do with Frontline. And
Funny you should
that
mention
was
that. Funny you should mention that. I was going to mention Frontline, but I'll let you carry on, and then we'll talk about that a little bit.
no problem.
Yeah.
If I'm too talkative, my friend, then please interrupt me.
No, it's fine.
And that must have been Jesus. When the first album came out in 2003.
Two, I think. Is it 2003? Okay.
2003.
Question the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good album, man. Because like when I first heard you, it's just like.
And we straight.
When I first heard you, I mean, I was like, wow, this band are awesome. It's just like, and three bands that came to mind were Frontline, Jaded Heart, and Letter X. Three German bands, kind of all in one. Do you agree with that?
Great guys, and I know most of the people in those bands. Yeah, as a matter of fact, Letter X were. I'm from the very southwest of Germany, and there were two, and the drummer joined Evidence One on some of our later shows.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he was helping us out for a couple gigs. Yeah, like in 2005, and we went straight on the road. 2003, and we went straight on the road with that album. And the very first concert we ever did was the first show of the Saxon tour in 2003.
Oh wow, I know those guys.
We never,
as you know.
I guess so, yeah. We never played live before, never, and that was the very first gig that we ever did.
What tour was the Saxon doing then? Which album were they released?
2003. It was the Heavy Metal Thunder. You know, that where they re-recorded the hits.
Yeah, it's a good album. That would have been an awesome gig because I actually saw them in England on that tour. But it's a shame you didn't come with the band to England.
I did. Sure, we did. We played the Astoria.
Oh, that must have been the only one show because I live in the north of England, so I'd have missed it.
Wait a second. Do we only do like one? No, there was like 2 or 3 legs of that tour. We were on one, on like the second one, and it had like 3 different. It had like 3 supporting acts. It was us. It was Nocturnal Rites, the amazing Nocturnal Rites, and Wolf from Sweden.
Oh, I know the guys from Wolf. My friend used to play for bass guitar for Ted Moroz. Anders.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
awesome, awesome. And it was
It's
cool. It was cool.
wow, because like Evidence One were a great band. You did really good albums, and I can see why they were like a heavier version of Frontline.
Mhm.
They were really.
Obviously,
Why did you break up? Because if I remember rightly, you were recording your fourth album. You told me this, and I think you said that you had problems with the recording and you lost all the songs on a computer. Is that
Ab-
correct?
that is absolutely right, sir.
I was so pissed
Um,
off when you told me that. I was like, damn, I really want to hear this album.
it was. I finished my tracks. In it wasn't all that, but that was the final nail in the coffin. Of course, we had huge problems with the lineup for the fourth album. We had trouble with the record company back then, and it happened that I one day got a call from Robbie. Said we have a problem. I said, "What's the problem then?" I said, "I lost it all." I said, "What did you lose?"
Oh
I
dear.
said, I had a terrible computer crash. I have no backups. It's all gone." I said, "Okay, that's shit. No problem. I still have, because I have my own recording studio. I still have my vocal parts recorded, and probably some of your guitars as well. I can send it over. Okay, let's do this over." And he wouldn't want to do it. Robbie was almost as fed up with the whole situation as I was. Um, you have to keep in mind that we changed um, the formula of the band um, in a more like you know how can I put it? The problem was I was basically still writing the material with Robbie, but Robbie wasn't very much into playing live. So when we released the Sky's the Limit album, which Robbie produced, played loads of guitars, all the keyboards and stuff, it was clear from the very beginning that he wouldn't be touring with us. So we had a lineup for tours, touring a live lineup, and we had basically us two guys writing the songs. That worked for that particular record, but it was growing more and more difficult towards
It's
the
a
fourth
bit of a
album.
struggle, for the band, basically.
It was, and especially since we, you know, the, the one of the crucial points basically was that whenever we had an offer to do shows, I had no idea who would be playing, and we had so many lineup changes in the course of like 2 years. We had to rehearse stuff that we've been playing for, which basically was like me and Hutch, the bass player, because we were the only ones who stayed in the band from the very beginning. And we've been playing those tracks for almost 10 years, and we had to continuously rehearse with new people. Some of them were brilliant. We would have loved to keep them, and some didn't quite fit.
So it's basically frustrating for you two.
It was absolutely, it was a drag, and then came the problems with the record company. It didn't work that well. There was other bands which were more in favor of the record company than we were, to put it that way. And
But the thing is, you did a great album, so why didn't you get the push you needed?
yes, the wrong guy, man.
Yeah, that's a shame because like Sky's the Limit and they're all tattooed albums are brilliant.
But but in the end, it was frustrating that we couldn't bring out the album. That was a bit it was really frustrating, but because there was some really great tunes on it, and we even had like one track which with Mr. Quinn from Saxon playing a guest solo. Um, in the end, I made my peace. So that with that situation, most of the tracks that we wrote and recorded, I meanwhile either shopped to other bands or released by myself You know,
Wow.
most of the tunes, except for like I don't know, like 2 or 3 songs. Most of the other songs have been released until now. There's some tracks on Vengeance album, less on Vengeance record. There's one tune is on the Gary Barden album, for example. So
I was going to say to you, what would the fourth album sounded like if it had been released? Would it have been a continuation of The Sky's the Limit, or would it have been something different?
Straight, this same vein, same sound, same album, more or less.
I do miss your band, to be honest. I really do miss that band because they did some great albums. I've even actually got a custom-made Evidence One patch on the back of my jacket. This guy from Mexico who makes custom patches. If you ever want any patches doing, Kirsten, this guy does them for bands, but it did me a full jacket of battle jacket with all these obscure bands and Evidence One got on there.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, it was sad because we were good, you know, and especially when Ted to the Heart came out, and it was a huge push, and we were running on MTV. I couldn't believe it, you know. And it was all of a sudden we played Wacken Festival, we played here and there, we went on tour with Alice Cooper, mate. Wow. It was awesome. It was absolutely amazing.
It's funny you should mention Wacken because you're on a live DVD, but you're actually not playing live. It's just a soundtrack where it's showing you pictures of the audience. It's like, what the fuck? Why on there? It should have been on there.
Yeah. I was a bit disappointed once I got the DVD.
Yeah, I was.
Point in case being the guy who recorded a concert and also recorded video was supposed to do so, also said he had problems with the tapes and stuff. I have no idea. In the end, they promised to get us on the DVD somehow, which they did, but
only audio version, unfortunately.
Right,
then,
but it was a cool show. It was a cool show.
So what came after Evidence One then, Kirsten? What came next? For the people that don't know, because you started, I think after that you started doing all this session work. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, sure you can. Wait a second, I need to check myself. I need to check my own website to check what.
I know you did that Roger album, Bastoff from Attention. You did his album.
Oh yeah. I did that one. There was Roger was cool. And I really was looking forward to working with him because I was a huge Attention fan, and I have this thing for symphonic metal, for a neoclassical guitar shredder guys, you know.
They're a good band. Attention were a great band.
Oh yeah. What a lineup!
Yeah.
What musicians? The album itself didn't quite. It didn't turn out the way it should have been, in my opinion. You know, Roger had a bit of problems back then because he was trying to do something by himself, which is fine, but he never done something by himself, so he wasn't particularly sure which direction to go. Nonetheless, I'm proud of that album. There's a wonderful Ingrid Malmsteen cover on it, which in my opinion is the best tune on the record.
So for those people that don't know, which song was it?
You Don't Remember, Never Forget.
Yeah, one of the classics.
Unfortunately, you know, just recently I was listening to the record again after a couple of years now, and what always bothered me is that I was really screaming my balls off on that album, singing way too high, and yeah, it's a great one in and of itself. We have also some record company trouble this time with the Japanese guys. I have no idea why. I was a session guy. You know,
was that album released on Lion Music?
Yes.
Yeah.
Over here in Europe, on Lion Music, and but it was basically first up made for the Japanese market.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one in and of itself, but yeah, I was a session guy. I was trying to help Roger the best I could.
Yeah, because you've done other projects like Frozen Rain, La Villa, Paradise Inc. I mean, I don't even know anything about these bands. Just tell me what they are.
Yeah, you should listen to them.
I
They're
know
cool.
I'm gonna have to YouTube. I have to YouTube them. Like it's amazing when
Yeah.
you meet somebody and you start interviewing, and you find out more and more about what bands you didn't know about. It's just like, holy shit, where did that come from?
Uh, a couple of like for example, for Frozen Rain, I did a video and stuff. Let me check myself. I need to go through my own discography now. Yeah, I mean, that was from the very start. I was a hired gun all my musical life. People call me up and say what you want to sing, and I probably do it. I'm very fortunate that I don't have to, so I can choose which albums to sing on or which projects to be part of.
So
And
basically, you can't fire yourself, and
yeah,
you can fire yourself when you've had enough.
yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, which I did.
Yeah.
I did a couple times, and every once in a while I get offers which I say I don't really can sort of connect to the music or can click to it, and I even had more like more established acts asking me to join in, and there even was a few which I simply passed on because I was so much looking up to the singer that I had before. I won't tell you any names,
Yeah.
but from my point of view, would never be able to fill in those shoes.
Okay.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I won't tell you names, won't tell you which ones it was, but
No.
there was you know, it was a humbling experience at times, getting asked to join in or at least come in for an audition. But there was a couple of us that, mate, I could never be as good as the guy that you had before.
Too much of a strain for you, wouldn't it? Basically.
Yeah, maybe only in my head.
Yeah.
Because I was. If you look up to certain singers and look up to certain bands, I have this one particular band in mind, which I won't tell you what it was, but which I saw when I was a kid, and in fact borrowed stuff from for Evidence One. I won't say I stole some parts, but I was heavily influenced. Let's put it that way.
Right.
And when they asked me to come over for an audition, I said, no, mate, I would never be able to fill in those shoes because I was looking up to that particular singer. Yeah, and that guy was so fucking amazing in his heydays. I would never, ever be able to be as good as he was.
Right, I understand that.
Yeah. And anyways, I've always had the fortune to be able to choose whatever project whatever album to sing on, and it is a real fortune, as a blessing that for the most part of the last 20 years I was constantly recording something, and there's almost no time that I can think of that I was not recording one album or something. It's always something on.
Yeah.
It's always like other guys, other people just tend to go like to the rehearsal studio for every other week or so. I go to my recording studio on a weekly basis every Wednesday evening and record something.